Admiral Kim's medals glinted in the light of the massive holographic display as he stood confidently before the Galactic Confederation Council. The circular chamber hummed with quiet conversations among representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations. Kim had served the Confederation for 90 years, but today's achievement ranked among his proudest. Protocol Obscura is now complete, he announced, his voice carrying across the chamber. The murmuring stopped as attention focused on him. The quantum barrier surrounding the Sol system is functioning perfectly. All warp signatures are now completely invisible to human detection methods. The holographic display behind him showed a blue-green planet, third from a yellow star. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance, its inhabitants unaware they were being deliberately isolated from the galactic community. Councillor Park, the eldest member of the High Council, leaned forward in her hovering chair. Her species aged much differently than Kim's, with skin that had hardened to a pearl-like sheen over centuries of life. "How long do you estimate before they might discover interstellar travel on their own?" she asked, her translator converting her harmonic speech to standard Confederation language. Kim had prepared for this question. "Based on their current technological trajectory, centuries at minimum," he replied with professional confidence. "These humans are undeniably clever and adapt quickly, but the physics of warp travel requires knowledge they simply cannot access without outside help." The council members exchanged glances. Some looked relieved, others skeptical. Humans had been a topic of intense debate for decades. Their rapid technological development from primitive flight to space exploration in less than a century was unprecedented. Many council members feared what might happen if such an unpredictable species gained access to faster-than-light travel. "The barrier doesn't just hide our warp signatures," Kim continued, pointing to technical specifications on the display. "It creates a subtle distortion in the quantum field around their solar system. Any attempt to detect warp technology will result in data that appears to be background radiation or sensor malfunction." The vote was quick and nearly unanimous. Protocol Obscura would remain in place indefinitely, with regular monitoring of human technological development. As the council adjourned, Lieutenant Lee approached Kim with a datapad. Lee was young for his position, but his analytical skills had earned him a place on Kim's staff. "Admiral, we've detected unusual energy spikes from their planet's northern hemisphere," Lee reported, showing Kim the readings. "Our analysis suggests it's likely just atmospheric research, or perhaps early experiments with their primitive fusion technology." Kim studied the data briefly. "Keep monitoring, but I don't see cause for concern. Their energy signatures are nowhere near what would indicate warp field research." Lee nodded and left to return to his station. Kim remained in the now empty council chamber, looking at the image of Earth. These humans would be safe now, developing at their own pace without the chaos that often came when primitive species acquired advanced technology too quickly. The Confederation had seen too many civilizations destroy themselves that way. Meanwhile, across the vast distance of space, Dr. Yoon of NASA's Deep Space Division stared at her monitor in a dimly lit laboratory. Outside, snow fell gently on the research facility in northern Canada. She had been conducting a routine scan of Jupiter's orbit when her instruments captured something strange. The readings showed a momentary distortion in spacetime, almost like a ripple in water. It lasted only milliseconds, but it was definitely there. According to all known physics, such a distortion shouldn't exist naturally. "That can't be right," she whispered to herself, running the data through analysis again. Something just glitched. She zoomed in on the reading, enhancing the visual representation. The pattern looked almost artificial, like a carefully designed wave. But that would mean. Dr. Yoon reached for her phone to call her colleague, Dr. Jin, at the Quantum Physics Department. If what she suspected was true, they had just detected evidence of technology far beyond anything humanity had created. Back at the Confederation monitoring station, the advanced systems failed to detect Dr. Yoon's discovery. The quantum barrier was working perfectly, except for one small oversight. The designers had never considered that humans might interpret the barrier itself as evidence of advanced technology. Admiral Kim's confidence was misplaced. The first crack in Protocol Obscura had already appeared, and it would not be the last. 6 months after her initial discovery, Dr. Yoon's life had changed completely. The university had denied her request for official research funding, calling her findings inconclusive anomalies. Undeterred, she had sold her comfortable apartment and poured her savings into private research. The basement laboratory they nicknamed Rabbit Hole sat beneath an abandoned radio station 40 miles outside of town. The concrete walls were now covered with equations, printouts of spectral analyses, and star charts marked with strange symbols. The air smelled of coffee and electronic components. "Look at these quantum echoes," Dr. Yoon said, pointing to a series of wave patterns on her main screen. The blue light illuminated the faces of her small team gathered around. "They're definitely not natural phenomena." Captain Choi leaned closer, his military posture never quite leaving him despite being 6 months into civilian life. After 20 years with South Korea's advanced defense systems, he had developed an instinct for recognizing patterns meant to be hidden. "It's like looking at the wake of a submarine that's trying not to leave a wake," he observed, tracing the pattern with his finger. "The harder they try to hide it, the more certain tells appear if you know what to look for." Dr. Han stood at the back of the room, arms crossed. His wild hair and rumpled clothes gave him the look of someone who had just rolled out of bed after 3 days without sleep. Once a respected physicist, his theories about quantum reality had made him an outcast in academic circles. "May I?" he asked, stepping forward to manipulate the 3D model on the holographic display they had cobbled together from modified gaming equipment. As his hands moved through the air, the model shifted, revealing layers of distortion that rippled outward from specific points in space. "It's not just technology we're seeing," he said, grinning as the patterns aligned perfectly with his equations on the wall. "It's a tear in reality itself." Dr. Yoon had found Dr. Han giving lectures to empty halls at community colleges. Captain Choi had been drinking away his military pension after being forced to retire when he reported seeing impossible objects during a satellite tracking mission. Together, they formed an unlikely team united by their willingness to believe the impossible. In the corner of the room sat their prototype device, nicknamed the Quantum Mirror, built from parts scavenged from university dumpsters, donated scientific equipment, and custom components Captain Choi had borrowed from military surplus. It resembled a cross between a satellite dish and a Tesla coil. "Power it up," Dr. Yoon instructed, checking the connections one last time. The machine hummed to life. Electricity crackling between nodes as specialized crystals began to glow with an inner light. On the main screen, the view of Earth's upper atmosphere came into focus, but with a new layer of information overlaid, quantum distortions invisible to conventional instruments. And there they were, objects moving in patterns that defied all known laws of physics. Some appeared and disappeared, while others moved at speeds that should be impossible. "Those are ships," Choi whispered, his hand instinctively moving to where his service weapon would have been. "And they're moving faster than light." Dr. Han's fingers flew over the keyboard, capturing the data. "This confirms everything. My equations predicted exactly this kind of quantum displacement." Dr. Yoon stared at the screen, her heart racing. After months of being called crazy, of risking everything on what most considered a wild theory, they had proof. Someone, was hiding advanced technology from humanity. Meanwhile, 40 million miles away, Officer Song sat at his monitoring station aboard the Confederation outpost. His screen showed routine scans of Earth's technological emissions. He yawned, filing his hourly report. Northern continent energy signatures showing standard patterns, he noted without interest. Just background radiation from their crude fusion experiments. Nothing concerning. The Confederation's sophisticated systems had been designed to detect any sign that humans were developing warp technology, but they had not been designed to detect humans observing the very barriers meant to hide that technology. Song's supervisor approved the report without reading it. Had he looked more closely at the energy patterns from that small building in the middle of nowhere, he might have noticed something unusual. The humans weren't trying to build warp drives yet. They were simply seeing through the camouflage. Back in the rabbit hole, Dr. Yoon's team celebrated their breakthrough with cheap champagne and paper cups. "So what do we do now?" Captain Choi asked, his military mind already thinking of strategic implications. Dr. Yoon looked at the ships moving effortlessly through space on their screen. "Now," she said with determination, "we figure out how they're doing it." 3 months after their discovery, the rabbit hole had transformed. What began as a basement hideaway now extended into an abandoned mine shaft beneath the radio station. Government funding remained non-existent, but anonymous donations had started arriving after Dr. Yoon published her findings on obscure scientific forums. Some team members suspected sympathetic billionaires. Others joked about time travelers ensuring their own existence. The main chamber buzzed with activity as 24 scientists and engineers worked at various stations. They had come from around the world, brilliant minds who had been rejected by mainstream institutions for their outlandish theories. Dr. Han stood before an enormous whiteboard covered in mathematics that would make most physicists question their sanity. His hair had grown even wilder, and dark circles rimmed his eyes. But they gleamed with excitement as he addressed the team. "The warp drive doesn't bend space," he explained, tapping his marker against a complex equation. "That's where everyone's been wrong. It slides between dimensional planes where distance is merely a concept." He drew a quick diagram showing 2 points on a flat sheet of paper, then folded the paper so the points touched. "Previous theories suggested folding spacetime like this," he continued. "But what we've observed in the alien technology suggests something far more elegant. It's not about bringing 2 points in space together. It's about stepping sideways into a dimension where those points are already adjacent." Captain Choi nodded thoughtfully. The former military man had assembled an engineering team from retired aerospace specialists and brilliant college dropouts. In the corner of the facility, they had constructed what looked like a chaotic mess of particle accelerator parts and quantum processors. "Your theory matches our observations," Choi said. "The aliens' warp signatures show quantum displacement, not space-time distortion." Dr. Yoon studied the mathematics, finding no flaws in Han's work. "If you're right, we shouldn't need nearly as much energy as traditional warp theory suggests." "Exactly," Han exclaimed. "It's like finding a door instead of building a tunnel." For weeks, they refined their understanding. The quantum barrier that had been meant to hide alien technology had inadvertently provided the perfect blueprint. By studying its structure, they had glimpsed the fundamental nature of the warp drives it was designed to conceal. The test day arrived with little fanfare. No government officials or media, just a small team of outcasts about to attempt the impossible. Their test vehicle was modest, a probe the size of a basketball, equipped with sensors and a quantum positioning system of their own design. The prototype drive itself was surprisingly small, fitting in the palm of a hand. Captain Choi ran final diagnostic checks on the launch system they had built in the deepest part of the mine shaft. "All systems nominal," reported one of his engineers. "Quantum alignment confirmed," said another. Choi looked up from his console. "Ready for test phase," he announced, his voice steady despite the historical moment they faced. The team gathered behind reinforced glass. Dr. Yoon took a deep breath and placed her hand on the activation panel. "Beginning test sequence in 3, 2, 1. She pressed the button. The probe hummed quietly as energy flowed through its systems. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a soft pop like a champagne cork, rather than the dramatic distortion they had observed in Confederation drives, the probe simply vanished. Silence fell over the control room. Dr. Han stared at the empty launch pad, then at his equations. "Did it work, or did we just vaporize it?" Someone whispered. Dr. Yoon turned to the tracking console. "Signal acquisition in progress," she said, her voice tense, searching predefined coordinates. The target had been ambitious. Pluto's moon Charon, billions of miles away. According to their calculations, if the drive worked as theorized, distance wouldn't matter. The console beeped. Green text appeared on the screen. Signal acquired. We've got telemetry, Dr. Hume announced, her professional composure breaking into a wide smile. Confirmed position. Orbit of Charon. Transit time, 3.2 seconds. The room erupted in cheers and embraces. Dr. Han collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down his face. Captain Choi stood perfectly still, staring at the confirmation readout as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. They had done it. Humans had achieved faster-than-light travel using technology they had reverse-engineered simply by observing its effects. Meanwhile, in the Confederation Monitoring Center orbiting discreetly beyond Neptune, Commander Kwon sipped his beverage while reviewing routine reports. The central screen showed normal readings across all monitored sectors of the Sol system. "Anything unusual today?" he asked his subordinate. "Nothing, sir. All human activities within predicted parameters." Kwon nodded and turned to administrative work. The sophisticated detection systems, designed to alert them to any sign of warp technology development, had registered nothing unusual. The human drive operated on principles so different from Confederation technology that it slipped completely under their sensors. Unknown to the commander, at that very moment, history had changed forever. The barrier meant to contain humanity had instead inspired its greatest leap forward. In the rabbit hole, as the celebration continued, Dr. Yoon stepped away to look at their achievement from a different perspective. They had not only discovered faster-than-light travel, they had improved upon it. Their method was cleaner, more efficient, and completely undetectable to those who had tried to hide it from them. Phase 2, she whispered to herself with a smile. Build something bigger. Admiral Kim was enjoying a diplomatic reception in the Grand Hall of the Confederation's central hub. Crystal chandeliers floated without support, casting rainbow patterns across the gathering of representatives from 100 worlds. Kim sipped a drink made from rare fruits from the Andromeda galaxy, savoring the moment of peace. His communication device vibrated against his wrist. Kim frowned. He had given strict instructions not to be disturbed during this important social event. The message must be urgent. He discreetly checked the screen and nearly choked on his drink. "Impossible," he muttered, reading the message twice to be sure. An unregistered vessel had somehow appeared at the Confederation's central hub docking bay without passing through any detection systems or checkpoints. The ship's design was unknown, but its energy signature matched no known species. Kim excused himself and hurried from the reception. By the time he reached the security center, a small crowd of officials had gathered around the main screen, which showed an external view of the mysterious ship. It was small by Confederation standards, with clean lines and a simple design that seemed almost childish compared to the organic curves of advanced Confederation vessels. But something about it made Kim's stomach tighten with dread. "Have you scanned it?" he demanded. "Yes, Admiral," replied the security chief. It's registering as human technology." A murmur ran through the gathered officials. Humans. Here. Impossible. They were contained within Protocol Obscura, with no access to warp technology. They're requesting permission to meet with Confederation representatives, the communications officer reported. They're transmitting in standard Confederation language. Kim made a quick decision. Send Diplomat Ba to make first contact. Full security protocol. Diplomat Ba had dealt with first contact situations before, though never with a species that should have been safely contained. As she prepared to board the Earth vessel, she expected to find primitive beings who had somehow stumbled upon stolen technology. Perhaps a Confederation ship had crashed on their planet, or a rogue trader had violated the containment protocol. When the airlock cycled open, Ba steeled herself for dealing with confused, overwhelmed humans. Instead, she found Captain Choi and Dr. Yoon waiting calmly in a small but clean reception area. They wore simple blue uniforms with a patch showing Earth surrounded by stars. Neither seemed surprised or intimidated by her non-human appearance. "Welcome aboard Earth ship Prometheus," Captain Choi said formally, bowing slightly. We appreciate your accepting our request for a meeting. Ba's translator rendered his words perfectly, which was odd since humans shouldn't have access to Confederation translation technology either. How did you get here? Ba asked, skipping the usual diplomatic pleasantries. This station is thousands of light years from Earth. Dr. Yoon smiled. We traveled here using our warp drive, of course. She activated a display panel, showing engineering schematics that made Ba's eyes widen. This was warp technology, but unlike anything the Confederation possessed. It was simpler in some ways, more complex in others, but clearly effective. Your barrier was very educational, Dr. Yoon explained with a smile. The quantum echoes it created gave us exactly the blueprint we needed. Bai felt lightheaded. What barrier? Protocol Obscura, Captain Choi said matter-of-factly. The quantum barrier surrounding our solar system, designed to hide the existence of faster-than-light travel from humans. They knew everything. Within hours, the Confederation Council convened an emergency session. Admiral Kim sat rigidly as Dr. Han, the third human representative, addressed the council with the help of a holographic display. Your warp technology creates micro-tears in the fabric of space-time, Dr. Han explained, showing visual models that clearly illustrated the problem. Over millennia, these tears accumulate and cause instability in heavily traveled regions. The council members murmured among themselves. This was classified information that even most Confederation citizens didn't know. Our drive, Dr. Han continued, operates on different principles. It slips between dimensional planes without damaging spacetime. He displayed efficiency metrics. Our tests show it's approximately 30% more energy efficient and leaves no damaging tears. The emergency council session erupted into chaos. Some representatives demanded the humans be contained immediately. Others wanted access to their technology. Still others questioned how this could have happened at all. Councillor Park, who had approved Protocol Obscura years ago, leaned toward Admiral Kim. How did they solve in months what took us millennia? She whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Kim had no answer. He watched the humans standing calmly amid the chaos they had created simply by existing where they were not supposed to be. In the following days, the Confederation would learn many uncomfortable truths. The humans had not only discovered the barrier, but had used it to learn about warp technology. They had not only replicated it, but improved upon it. And most disturbing of all, they had done so without the Confederation detecting a single thing. As Admiral Kim escorted the human delegation to their new quarters in the diplomatic section, he couldn't help but ask the question that had been burning in his mind. Why did you come here? Why announce yourselves this way? Captain Choi looked at him with an expression Kim couldn't quite read. Because hiding technology never works, he said simply. We thought you might have learned that lesson already. For 3 months, Admiral Kim led the most extensive investigation in Confederation history. His team analyzed every aspect of human physiology, culture, and cognitive patterns, trying to understand how they had achieved what should have been impossible. One evening, alone in his private research chamber surrounded by data displays, Kim found the answer. He sat motionless for several minutes, letting the implications sink in. Then he carefully prepared his final report. The next day, he stood before the High Council, looking older than when the investigation began. The chamber was completely silent as he delivered his findings. My investigation has revealed a startling truth, he began, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. Human perception itself is fundamentally different from other species in the Confederation. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing comparative brain scans and quantum field measurements. Their consciousness exists partially in quantum states, Kim continued. Their minds naturally perceive multiple potential realities simultaneously. What we perceived as a barrier, they saw as a window. The council members looked at each other in confusion and disbelief. Explain, demanded Councillor Park. The quantum barrier we created to hide warp technology was designed based on our understanding of perception, Kim said. But human brains process quantum information differently. The very technology we use to conceal actually gave them direct insight into how warp fields function. That's impossible, one counselor objected. No organic brain can directly perceive quantum states. And yet they do, Kim replied simply. Not consciously, but their intuitive leaps, what they call hunches or gut feelings, often reveal an unconscious processing of quantum information. 2 weeks later, a joint scientific commission was established. In a large laboratory aboard the central hub, scientists from both the Confederation and Earth worked side by side. The atmosphere was tense at first, but curiosity gradually overcame suspicion. Dr. Han stood before a mixed group of human and alien scientists, explaining the human perspective. Reality has rules, he said, but humans have always questioned those rules. What you call a glitch, we call imagination. A Confederation physicist raised an appendage. But how did you know to look for the quantum echoes in the first place? No instruments should have detected them. Dr. Han smiled. We didn't know what we were looking for. Dr. Yoon simply noticed something that felt wrong. A pattern that shouldn't exist. She trusted that feeling enough to investigate. Intuition is not a scientific method, objected another scientist. Perhaps your definition of science is too narrow, responded Dr. Han. Human science has always progressed through a combination of rigorous method and creative leaps. We embrace both. Over the following months, the Confederation struggled to adjust to the new reality. Their technological superiority, maintained for thousands of years, had been undone in less than a year. Many found this deeply disturbing. Others saw opportunity. The High Council debated for weeks before reaching a decision. Earth would be invited to join the galactic community as a full member, with new protocols established for technological sharing rather than concealment. We cannot contain what we do not fully understand. Councillor Park had argued in the final debate. Better to have humans as allies than risk them developing in isolation and perhaps becoming something we cannot predict or control. 1 year after the arrival of Earth ship Prometheus, Admiral Kim stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Research Station orbiting Earth's moon. Through the vast transparent dome, he watched as ships launched from the surface, some human designs, some Confederation, and several that represented collaboration between the two. Dr. Yoon joined him at the railing, now wearing the formal robes of Earth's representative to the Confederation Council. Quite a view, she said, watching the human ship demonstrate its improved warp drive, slipping in and out of normal space with barely a ripple. Indeed, Kim agreed. He had spent many hours in conversation with this human woman over the past year, trying to understand her species better. I've been thinking about what we learned from this experience. And what's that? She asked. Perhaps, he said, choosing his words carefully, we needed your species' reality glitch to progress beyond our own limitations. The Confederation had reached a point of stagnation. We improved our technology incrementally, but no true innovations had occurred for centuries. Below them, on the lunar surface, construction teams worked on the first interspecies university, where young minds from 100 worlds would learn together. Dr. Yoon smiled, watching a small ship piloted by her former colleague, Captain Choi, testing a new navigation system. A glitch is just an unexpected solution to a problem you didn't know you had. Kim considered this an interesting perspective. That's what humans do best. Dr. Yoon replied. We see things differently. Sometimes that leads to chaos, but sometimes. She gestured to the ships moving freely through space, to the university rising from the lunar dust, to the stars beyond that now seemed closer than ever before. Sometimes it leads to this, she finished. Admiral Kim nodded slowly. Protocol Obscura had been designed to protect the galaxy from humanity's unpredictability. In the end, that very unpredictability had opened doors no one else had seen. The reality glitch, as they now called it, had changed everything, not just for humans, but for all species, and perhaps that had been the point all along.